In a world filled with corruption, crime, and injustice, the desire for a perfect society often feels like a distant dream. For Light Yagami, a brilliant high school student, this dream becomes an obsession when he stumbles upon a notebook that has the power to kill. This is the story of how a single object, the Death Note, leads one young man down a path of absolute power, moral ambiguity, and ultimate destruction. The story begins when Light, who excels in both academics and athletics, grows disillusioned with the state of the world. He finds life mundane and society irreparably flawed. Then one fateful day, he discovers a strange black notebook lying on the ground outside his school. Written across its cover are the words Death Note. Inside, he finds instructions explaining that anyone whose name is written in the notebook will die, as long as the user knows their face. At first, Light dismisses the notebook as a prank. He laughs at the absurdity of such a thing, but curiosity gnaws at him. What if it were real? In a moment of daring, Light decides to test the Death Note. He writes down the name of a criminal he sees on the news, someone who has committed heinous crimes yet evaded justice. To Light's shock, the criminal dies just as the notebook described. His heart races. The Death Note is real. With this newfound power, Light realizes that he holds the key to reshaping the world. He can eliminate criminals and create a utopia where only the righteous remain. In his mind, he will become a god of justice. However, Light's acquisition of the Death Note also comes with a supernatural companion, a Shinigami named Ryuk, a death god who dropped the notebook into the human world out of boredom. Ryuk is a grotesque figure with skeletal wings, pale decayed skin, and glowing eyes. He delights in the chaos that unfolds as Light begins to use the notebook. Ryuk warns Light that the Death Note will lead him down a dangerous path, but Light is undeterred. He is determined to cleanse the world of evil and is willing to do whatever it takes to achieve his goal. As Light embarks on his crusade to rid the world of criminals, he takes on the alias Kira, a name that quickly becomes synonymous with fear. Criminals across the globe begin dying under mysterious circumstances, and soon the world is in awe of this seemingly omnipotent vigilante. Some view Kira as a hero, a savior who brings swift justice to those who deserve it. Others see Kira as nothing more than a murderer, playing God with the lives of others. Governments and law enforcement agencies worldwide scramble to stop Kira, but he remains elusive. No one knows his identity, and his methods are beyond comprehension. The situation grows desperate, and that's when L, a legendary detective known only by his initial, enters the fray. L is a reclusive genius, with an eccentric personality and a love for sweets. Despite his odd demeanor, L has never failed to solve a case, and he vows to bring Kira to justice. L and Kira quickly become locked in a battle of wits. While Kira can kill anyone simply by writing their name, L has his intellect, intuition, and analytical prowess. It's a clash between two brilliant minds, each determined to outsmart the other. L begins his investigation by baiting Kira. He broadcasts a message challenging Kira on live television, daring him to kill him. Unknown to Light, this is a trap. The broadcast is only shown in a limited area, allowing L to narrow down Kira's location to Japan. Light, realizing that L is a serious threat, becomes more cautious, but he cannot help but be intrigued by this new adversary. What follows is a series of psychological games as both men attempt to outthink the other. Light, using his position as the son of a high-ranking police officer, infiltrates the task force working to capture Kira. Pretending to be a valuable ally, Light works alongside his enemies, all while secretly manipulating events to keep them off his trail. As the pressure mounts, Light becomes more ruthless. His original intention to rid the world of evil begins to blur as he eliminates anyone who gets in his way, including innocent people. Light's belief in his divine mission grows stronger, and he justifies every action with the belief that the end justifies the means. He no longer sees himself as simply a human. He views himself as the god of a new world order. Meanwhile, L grows more suspicious of Light, though he lacks concrete evidence. Their interactions become increasingly intense, and the tension between them is palpable. L's deductive skills allow him to come dangerously close to uncovering the truth, But Light always manages to stay one step ahead, often by taking drastic measures. At one point, Light even relinquishes ownership of the Death Note, temporarily erasing his memory of it as part of an elaborate plan to throw L off his scent. During this period, new characters are introduced, adding layers of complexity to the story. Misa Amane, a popular model, enters the scene as the second Kira. Misa possesses her own Death Note and is driven not by a desire for justice, but by her obsession with Light, whom she sees as her savior. Misa's devotion complicates Light's plans, as her impulsiveness and emotional decisions often conflict with his cold, calculated approach. Misa also has a Shinigami, Rem, who deeply cares for her. Rem's affection for Misa adds another moral dimension to the story, as she becomes protective of Misa, willing to take extreme measures to ensure her safety. Despite these complications, Light continues to manipulate those around him, orchestrating events with meticulous precision. He eventually succeeds in outsmarting L in a stunning turn of events. By manipulating Misa and Rem, Light brings about L's death, clearing his path to total control. With L gone, Light believes he has won. He is now the unchallenged god of his new world. However, L's death is not the end. Two of L's protégés, Nier and Mello, step forward to take up the mantle. While neither is as individually formidable as L, together they pose a serious threat to Light. Nier, calm and methodical, takes over the investigation with a detached focus. He lacks L's personal emotional connection to the case, but is just as determined to bring Kira to justice. Mello, on the other hand, is impulsive and reckless, using more dangerous methods to reach his goals. The introduction of Nier and Mello marks the final arc of the story. As Light continues to reign as Kira, he becomes increasingly arrogant, believing that no one can stop him. But Nier's slow and steady approach begins to chip away at Light's defenses. The psychological warfare intensifies as Nier sets up elaborate traps to expose Kira's identity. Light, once the master manipulator, begins to make mistakes as his overconfidence clouds his judgment. At this point, Light's personality undergoes a significant transformation. What once began as a somewhat noble desire to eliminate criminals and create a better world has now become an insatiable hunger for power. Light no longer cares about creating a better society. He is obsessed with his godlike status. He will eliminate anyone who dares to oppose him, whether they are criminals, detectives, or innocent bystanders. His vision of justice has been corrupted by his ambition, and he is willing to sacrifice everything to maintain control. Nier, on the other hand, approaches the situation with a calculated calmness. Unlike L, Nier is not emotionally involved, and this detachment allows him to see Light's weaknesses. As the story nears its conclusion, Nier sets up a trap that will finally reveal Kira's identity. The final confrontation between Nier and Light is a gripping culmination of all the mind games and manipulation that have defined the story. Nier, having carefully gathered evidence and planned his final move, sets a trap that Light walks right into. In a shocking twist, Light is exposed as Kira in front of the task force, including his own father. His facade of innocence shatters, and for the first time, Light is truly cornered. Desperate, Light tries to escape, but he is mortally wounded in the process. As he lies dying, Ryuk, who has watched the entire drama unfold with indifference, writes Light's name in the Death Note. Ryuk had warned Light from the beginning that he would eventually write his name in the notebook. With his task complete, Ryuk coldly watches as Light, once a brilliant young man with a noble goal, succumbs to the very power he sought to control. In the end, Death Note is not just a story about power, it's a story about the human condition, the complexity of justice, and the consequences of wielding absolute authority. Light Yagami's rise and fall serve as a cautionary tale about the dangers of losing sight of one's moral compass. What began as a mission to create a perfect world ultimately became a descent into madness, as Light's vision of justice turned into tyranny. Death Note challenges its viewers to question the nature of right and wrong, and it leaves a lasting impression long after the final scene fades to black. It is a story that reminds us all that the line between good and evil is often far more blurred than we realize.